How's it going, guys? This is Danny Nada from Nada Films, and it is currently spooky season. And since it is spooky season, then the topic of this video is gonna be a spooky movie. Or spooky movies, to be more specific. To be more specific, I'll be talking about the Halloween movies. Yes, the famous or infamous, depending on who you ask, Halloween movies. And I'm gonna be ranking them from worst to best. And I honestly have a feeling that not a lot of Halloween fans are gonna agree with my ranking, but fuck it, it's spooky season. Before I start, I wanted to make it clear that this ranking is purely opinion based and that it comes from a place of love and respect for the franchise. Now, if you don't necessarily agree with this ranking, you're more than welcome to vocalize it in the comments below. Now, having said that, let's start the ranking.
Oh shit, man! Charlie, where the fuck you been at?
We're starting the list strong with legit the worst movie in the Halloween franchise, which is Halloween Resurrection. Honestly, I watched that movie for the first time yesterday. Well, I've seen a lot of scenes of it before, but this is the first time I watched it in its entirety, and I can honestly say I was severely disappointed. Not that I was expecting it to be good. In fact, I knew it was going to be horrible, but I was expecting to have the same entertainment value I get from watching The Room, and I just didn't get it. To be honest, the film was just so boring. Like, I literally watched it yesterday and I don't remember a thing about it, except, Busta Rhymes in the final act, but nothing else. This movie is just so boring. It's not even so bad it's good. It's just full on boring. And there's really nothing else for me to say about this. Personally, I found Halloween Resurrection to be extremely disappointing because fans seem to put this movie on a pedestal and even try to say that this is one of the highlights of the Halloween sequels. But for me, it was just so disappointing to watch. In fact, before watching Resurrection, this was going to be my least favorite Halloween movie, but Resurrection obviously won. But with H2O, it was just so... It's hard to describe the disappointment because at first I thought it had potential, but as the movie went on, it just became so dull, and it's impossible to ignore how much it copied off of Scream. And even then, most people that like this movie admit that it has flaws, but what they think is the saving grace is the third act when Michael confronts Laurie. But even then, that confrontation seemed so dull to me. I found nothing entertaining about this movie except LL Cool J. LL Cool J was the only bright light in this darkness of a movie, and even then he didn't save it because he was only in a small role. But his small roles were just the only thing that gave this movie personality. But this movie just doesn't have personality. The only thing that sets it apart from the other installments is the fact that it tries to replicate the vibes from Scream, and it just didn't work for me. And I'm sorry to fans of this movie. To me, this is the second worst installment of the franchise. I can't confirm this, but I think it's safe to say that Halloween 5 kind of borrowed from Friday the 13th, The New Blood. And I think it's especially true when you consider the fact that New Blood actually came out a year before Halloween 5. And yeah, they kind of have the same premise, which is a girl that has psychic powers that fights a slasher villain. So it's really kind of undeniable. But again, I can't prove anything. You know, all I can do is just tell you to draw up your own conclusion. But this is my opinion on this. So, yeah. Now, Halloween 5 as a film, it's really bad. It's the worst out of the Thorn trilogy. They ruined Sam Loomis for me. They retconned the last movie's ending. And the film is just a by-the-numbers slasher that has nothing that sets it apart. Not even its premise of a girl with psychic powers, because they borrowed it from another slasher film. So really, the film is just... it's just low tier. I mean, you can find some entertainment value from, you know, laughing at it a bit, because it does have its so bad it's good moments. But at the same time, with Donald Pleasence in this movie and having his character so severely butchered, it's just so sad to watch. It's just bad. The writing is just horrible. There's really nothing. I mean, there's a few, like I said, there's a few good things about it, but there's just so few. The movie is just so disappointing to watch, honestly. Halloween 4 is technically better than Halloween 5, but it's mainly because of the ending for me. And, you know, spoiler alert, the only reason for that is because when Jamie kills her foster mother, it's honestly very unexpected, and I would have never guessed that the franchise would go on this direction. But at the same time, it's very disappointing when they kind of back out on that on Halloween 5. But it's still worth mentioning because it's just, to me, the ending of Halloween 4 kind of gives Michael Myers' ambiguity a new layer. And it just becomes more interesting when you think, wow, so Michael Myers can even transfer his rage onto people, or maybe it's hereditary since she's related to Michael, since, you know, Michael's her uncle. You know, it just gives this new layer onto the lore of Halloween that really becomes very disappointing when then you realize that the sequel of Halloween 4 just backs out on that. Again, it's just really cool when you think about it, because so why is she evil now? Did Michael Myers transfer her rage onto her? Is it hereditary? Like, we don't know. And it's that level of ambiguity that gives this movie kind of the same vibe as the first one, but only kind of, because you have to remember what led up to this ending was not memorable. I mean, I've seen this movie twice and I don't remember a lot of what happened before the ending. What I remember was, you know, when they all shot down Michael Myers, and then after that. But before that, I really don't remember much, because the movie is just really a typical slasher until the ending. And it's the reason why it has this low ranking, but it's still better than the other Halloween movies I just mentioned. Yeah, I don't know how to say this without stepping on some toes here, but Halloween 2 is by far the most disappointing installment of the franchise. I'm sorry, but I can't help what I feel. I mean, seriously, we're talking about a movie that's so different from the first one. It's honestly very hard to believe that most of the people that worked on the first one worked on this sequel. It's just so different. It's so low grade. It's so cheap. It's such a fall from grace. I don't even know if I can accurately describe this without even, you know, getting passionate about it, because Halloween 2 is such a disappointment to me. Because when I was trying to watch every single Halloween movie And since most fans hype up the sequel as the best sequel, I watched it and I was just severely disappointed. I didn't know what I was watching. It felt like I was watching a fan film. It's just so disappointing. Jesus. I don't even think I can talk about it anymore. But thankfully I don't have to, because I have my buddy Morlock here who's gonna talk about it for me. So take it away, Morlock.
Hey there, happy Halloween! I'm Morlock, aka Japanophile, and I'm excited to finally be given a chance to talk about something that isn't a Japanese movie. Growing up, I heard a lot about the Halloween franchise through pop culture osmosis. When I was old enough and brave enough, I watched the first one and immediately understood the appeal. John Carpenter's Halloween is a classic. It has everything you want for the seasonal horror. While there are still the tropes and hallmarks of the slasher genre that it helped birth, the movie feels classier than that. There's a lot more emphasis on tension and atmosphere, more so than over-the-top kills and gore. There's a certain element of realism to it that puts you in the mindset of, what if some psychopath just showed up and started killing people? And Carpenter knows when to test the boundaries of reality. This is a film that only gets better with age. So of course, when I first saw this movie, I wanted to continue to the sequel that very same night, and I didn't get quite the same experience. You see, as a kid, Halloween and Halloween 2 were always pitched to me as a package. 2 completes the story of the first one. It's essential to watch, right? Well, what I wasn't warned about was how much of an immediate downgrade 2 is. Everything I liked about the first film, that atmosphere and tension, was stripped away for a much blander and generic slasher film. Watching them back to back was like night and day. And as I continued watching, I realized that I didn't even want a sequel in the first place. Halloween 2 was made for people that think that they wanted or needed answers. It's for people that look at an open ending and they see it as a to be continued rather than an artistic choice. I didn't need to know why Michael was trying to kill Laurie. I didn't even need to see him die. Nothing that any sequel could do would be more impactful than the last 5 minutes of the first movie, and that feeling of dread knowing that the killer is still out there. Anyways, I have to go back to my channel and talk about Japanese horror movies. Back to you, Danny.
Thanks, Morlock. Now y'all better subscribe to his channel. Links will be in the description below. And if you don't, I will end you. Just kidding, Spirit of Halloween. Or am I? No, I am. Maybe not. To sum it up, Halloween too bad, me no likey. Next! Here is where things start picking up, because Halloween 6, the producer's cut, is by far one of the most entertaining sequels. And it's really because when you watch it through the lens of watching a Friday the 13th movie, it just really works, because its plotline is just so outrageous, but again, very entertaining, and the kills are very creative. Everything that they try to do with this movie is just so out there that you can't help but be enamored with everything that's happening. And it features a very good performance by Donald Pleasence. It gives a very interesting send-off for him as well. And it's just such a fun film to watch. I couldn't help but put it at number 6. So, yeah, I honestly recommend this. You will probably have to watch the 4th and 5th Halloween film, but I would argue that it's worth it, because to me, this is the best out of the Thorn trilogy, and it's worth watching. I'm sorry, but I don't care what Halloween fans say. Rob Zombie's Halloween movies are actually decent, especially Halloween 2. I mean, obviously I rank Halloween 1 above Halloween 2, but still, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, by far, one thing that sets it apart from the other Halloween movies is that it has the best visuals out of every single installment of the franchise. In fact, I would argue that the visuals are downright Oscar-worthy. I honestly believe that the cinematography is just so well done. Now, story-wise, obviously, there are some questionable things. I question a lot of the setups. I question how, for example, Michael Myers escaped in this film. I question the dream sequence, even though the dream sequence is actually well filmed. The fact that it's a dream sequence kind of ruins it. And I really don't like how they changed Dr. Loomis in this film. The 180 of his character is just out of nowhere. I really don't care what people say. Obviously, I'm speaking about the director's cut of Halloween 2. Haven't seen the theatrical cut, and it is the superior cut. But honestly, Halloween 2, while it is visually perfect, story-wise, it has, hit and misses. I would say 50-50. But it is a hell of a lot better than most of the sequels I just talked about. So, sorry, Halloween fans. Rob Zombie's Halloween is the opposite of Halloween 2. I would say it's better story-wise, but visually is inferior. And the reason why I think it's better story-wise is because it tries to do a different take on Michael Myers, on his origins, and how a lot of stuff came to be. And I think most of it works. Obviously, I don't agree necessarily with the over-explanation as to why Michael Myers became evil, but I still really liked the kid that played Michael Myers when he was a kid, and I really like the established relationship between Loomis and Michael Myers, and all of that kind of worked. And obviously I'm talking about the theatrical cut because the director's cut is actually inferior, honestly. It's so weird because with Halloween 2, the director's cut is superior, and with the first Halloween, the theatrical cut is actually superior. So, yeah, it's very strange. Personally, I think this one is better than Halloween 2, and it's just better story-wise. If you haven't seen it, I really recommend you watch the theatrical cut and Halloween 2, the director's cut. I really believe it's the best way to watch it. Now, here is where Halloween fans lose me. Because for some reason, Halloween 2018 has gained a lot of hate from fans of the franchise. And to this day, I don't understand why. Because considering how many stinkers this franchise has, for some reason, a lot of fans have this at the bottom of their ranking. And I seriously don't understand. Because, for example, I've heard fans say that Halloween 2 is a better sequel, or that H2O is a better reboot, which those statements don't make any sense to me. Because, for example, Halloween 2 is supposed to take place on the same night as the first one, and yet both films just seem so different in quality. And we talked about this when I mentioned the second film and my ranking. The two films just feel like night and day. I mean, I'm stuttering and everything because I don't understand this. They're supposed to take place on the same night, and yet they're just so different. And here comes Halloween 2018, which is supposed to take place decades after and was made decades after, and yet it feels like it's connected. It just feels like it. And it's perfect in that way. I mean, sure, a lot of people complain about the humor, but I don't understand why. To me, it fits perfectly with the film. And then we have H2O, which I've heard people say that, oh, this is a good installment because it hypes up the rivalry between Laurie and Michael Myers. But Halloween 2018 literally hyped up that rivalry perfectly. Perfectly. And somehow, oh no, H2 was better because in the third act they have a final confrontation. Bro, the final confrontation in Halloween 2018 was literally leagues better. I don't understand why. I seriously don't understand this. To me, this is the third best Halloween film. No cap. That's all I'm gonna say about Halloween 2018.
And happy Halloween.
Now comes what is considered the black sheep of the franchise. And to me, that shouldn't even be a thing because I think Halloween 2 should be the black sheep of the franchise. But, that's just me. Halloween 3 Season of the Witch is the most underrated film of the franchise. And if you've heard about it, you know the story behind it. It was supposed to be the start of an anthology series, but it didn't work since people were expecting another Michael Myers sequel. And unfortunately, it flopped. But fortunately, throughout the years, it has gained a lot of love. And every year, I think it's getting more and more fans. So, in fact, I think it's getting a respectable amount of fans. So, I guess still a win. But yeah, Halloween 3, great film. It is the second best out of the franchise, in my opinion. Love the story. Love the special effects, love the gore, love almost everything about it. My only complaint is that unfortunately some of the acting is kind of off and it kind of ruins it a little bit, but I still think the film is good despite those shortcomings, which is why it is to me the second best out of the franchise. And now comes what I think is the best, which is now, is it really surprising that I ranked the first Halloween film as the best one? I mean, we're talking about what is considered one of the best horror films ever. We're talking about what is considered one of John Carpenter's best. Hell, we're talking about the horror film that kickstarted the whole slasher craze. So again, is it really surprising? I mean, what can I even say about this film that hasn't been said already? Better YouTubers have said things perfectly about this film. Hell, Morlock said things that literally perfectly capture my thoughts on the first Halloween film. And it's just so crazy how this film just became so iconic that it forced the people behind it to try to replicate everything that happened with this film, and they could never do it. Hell, even Halloween 2018, which is, one of my favorites of this franchise, couldn't do it. Or Halloween 3. I mean, Halloween 3 obviously didn't even try. But so many people have tried to attempt to be like this film, and they just could never do it. And I'm just so glad that this film exists because it created it didn't create it, it kickstarted it. This genre in the horror genre that is just so perfect because I'm a big fan of slashers. And even though Halloween is not the original slasher, it's still, one of the originals. And I love it for it. And it will always be not only one of my favorite Halloween films, but one of my favorite films in general. And that's the end of my ranking. Whew. That was honestly harder than I thought. But, yep, that's my ranking. Hope you guys like it. If you didn't, please tell me in the comments below. Please. If you don't like it, if you think I'm wrong, say it in the comments. It's not sarcasm. I really want you to tell me why you didn't like my ranking, please. please. So, like always, like and subscribe. Please share this video. And I want to thank Morlock, aka Japanophile, for sending me his thoughts on Halloween 1 and 2. Please, guys, subscribe to his channel. Links will be in the description below. And see you in the next video.